Welcome back, everyone. Tonight, we're diving into the unexplainable. We often think of our homes as the safest places on Earth, but sometimes they hold secrets that defy logic. These stories come from real people who experienced things that still keep them up at night. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, there's no denying the chill these tales leave behind. Tonight, we aren't just looking for shadows. We're looking for the truth behind the veil. So dim the lights, grab a blanket, and let's explore some of the most haunting, true paranormal encounters ever shared. Stay tuned, because the final story might just change the way you look at the dark forever.
Our first story takes us back to 1994, to an old Victorian house in rural Maine. Sarah, then just 8 years old, remembers the heavy atmosphere of the second floor. Her family had just moved in, and while the downstairs was filled with the light of renovations, the upper hallway felt perpetually cold. She often heard footsteps pacing back and forth above her bedroom ceiling, a rhythmic thumping that didn't match the weight of any pet or structural creak the house could produce. Her parents dismissed it as the house settling, but Sarah knew better. The sounds weren't random. They were deliberate, as if someone was waiting for the perfect moment to come down. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, Sarah was home alone while her mother worked in the garden. The pacing started again, louder this time. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, she followed the sound to the pull-down attic stairs. The wood was cold to the touch, and the air around the hatch seemed to vibrate with a low hum. As she reached for the handle, the pacing stopped abruptly. Silence filled the house, thick and suffocating. When she finally mustered the courage to peek inside, she saw nothing but dust motes dancing in the dim light. She began to breathe a sigh of relief until she noticed a single, fresh, wet footprint on the dry floorboards, right in the center of the room. The footprint was large, clearly from a bare foot, yet there was no one else in the house. As Sarah stared, frozen in place, a second print appeared right before her eyes, as if an invisible weight was pressing down on the floorboards. Then, a third. Something was walking toward her. She scrambled back, heart hammering against her ribs, the sound of her own pulse drowning out the rain. She didn't wait to see a fourth. She ran out of the house and refused to go back inside until her parents returned. Decades later, she still can't explain how a wet mark could manifest on dry wood in a locked attic, or who was walking toward her that day. Moving forward in time, we find ourselves in a modern city hospital. Mark, a veteran nurse, was working the graveyard shift in a ward that had been recently decommissioned for renovations. It was a skeleton crew night, and the hallways were eerily quiet, illuminated only by the sterile blue glow of the emergency lights. Mark was finishing his rounds when he noticed a call light flickering from room 402. This was a room that was supposed to be empty, locked, and devoid of any patients. Thinking it was simply a technical glitch caused by the ongoing construction, he grabbed his keys and went to investigate, expecting nothing more than a faulty wire or a shortcut in the system. When Mark unlocked the door, he found the room perfectly staged for the next day's work, but the air felt strangely electrified, heavy with the scent of ozone. The monitor beside the empty bed was active, displaying a steady, rhythmic heartbeat on its screen. There was no one in the bed, no one in the bathroom, and the window was sealed shut. Yet, as he watched, the heart rate monitor began to accelerate, 90 beats per minute, then 110, then 140. The green line spiked and dipped in a frantic pattern. It was as if someone invisible was having a full-blown panic attack right in front of him. He reached out to turn off the machine, but his hand stopped midair. A distorted whisper filled the room, calling out a name that wasn't Mark's. "Is it time?" the voice asked, sounding exhausted and frail. Mark, frozen in place, watched as the bed sheets crinkled and depressed, forming the distinct shape of a person lying down. The heart rate monitor flatlined with a long, piercing beep. Fear finally took hold of him, and he backed out of the room, locking it behind him with trembling hands. The next day,
He checked the hospital records and discovered that the last patient to occupy room 402 had passed away exactly 1 year prior, at that very hour. The call light never flickered again, but Mark never walked that hallway alone after dark.
Our final encounter takes us to a lonely stretch of highway in Arizona. David was driving home late after a long business trip, the desert heat still radiating from the asphalt. The moon was a sliver in the sky, and the only light came from his high beams, cutting through the oppressive desert darkness. He was miles from the nearest town, surrounded by nothing but cacti and the occasional tumbleweed. He was struggling to stay awake when he saw a figure standing on the shoulder of the road, about 100 yards ahead. It was a woman in a long white dress, her back turned to the traffic. Against his better judgment, David slowed down to see if she needed help in the middle of nowhere.
As he pulled over, the woman didn't move. She stood perfectly still, even as the wind whipped her hair and the dress around her legs. David rolled down his window and called out, asking if she was okay or if she had car trouble. She didn't respond at first. Then she slowly began to turn around, but her movements were jerky and unnatural, like a stop-motion film from a nightmare. When she finally faced him, David's blood ran cold. She had no features, just smooth, pale skin where eyes, a nose, and a mouth should have been. Her face was a blank canvas of flesh. He slammed the car into gear and floored it, checking his rearview mirror only to see the road completely empty behind him.
David didn't stop until he reached a brightly lit gas station 20 miles away. Shaking and pale, he told the attendant what he had seen. The older man didn't look surprised. He simply nodded and poured David a cup of coffee. He sighed and told David that he wasn't the first to see the pale lady. Local legend said she was a bride who had been lost in a flash flood decades ago, still searching for the way home, or perhaps searching for the face she lost. David never took that route at night again. He preferred the 3-hour detour to the terrifying possibility of seeing that featureless face again, waiting in the silence of the haunted desert.
The world is full of things we can't explain, lurking in the corners of our vision and the silences between our thoughts. These stories remind us that the line between our world and the next might be thinner than we think. Perhaps these spirits are just echoes of the past, or maybe they are something far more present. Have you ever had an encounter that left you questioning reality? We'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If you enjoyed these tales of the supernatural, don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates. We bring you the best true paranormal encounters every week to keep your curiosity alive. Stay safe, stay curious, and most importantly, keep your lights on.